All right, as we start looking at drawing our displacement versus time graphs, we already said we have to have 3 labels on them. So what labels are they? Tidal, and what else? X-axis, Y-axis, and tidal. Good, so let's go ahead and do that. Look at your units in the table. This one again is meters, and our time is measured in seconds. And for my tidal, I'm just going to put it as displacement versus time. For our titles of our graphs, it's always going to be whatever goes on the y-axis versus whatever goes on the x-axis. Okay, so when we name our graph in a line graph like this, it'll be y-axis versus x-axis. Okay, so we've got our labels done. Now let's plot our points. We're not starting at position 0 this time. We're starting at 9. Okay, so let's try to make our lines here nice and straight. Did you notice how on this graph, this is a different slope than this segment? Okay, so make sure you don't just draw it all the way to 0, right? We had a definite change, right? We went faster, then we slowed down a little bit. So as you're drawing that, there's a different slope from, excuse me, 5 to 6 than there is 6 to 7. Okay, do we move forward anytime in this graph? No, all of our motion is backward. A little harder to tell on our fastest portion of the motion. I think we've got 2 areas that are the same slope. Okay, so those are both kind of would be considered our fastest motion. How many different time intervals do we stand still? How many different time intervals do we stand still? 3. So we count this as 1, right? From 0 to 1. This would be the second time interval from 3 to 5. And then this would be the third from 7 to 9. So we've got 3 different intervals in which we stand still. Okay, any questions with that? Why don't you try the next one here on your own? I want you to go from start to finish, all the way with axes, labels, all that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to ask you some questions to answer on top of that. Could you tell as you were putting together your graph that our slope was the same the whole time? Right? It was always up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So if I was going to find my velocity, what's that mean I need to calculate? The slope. Okay, so let's do that one time here. If I'm going to find the slope, I'm going to pick 2 points. Let's say I'm going to pick this point with the coordinates 7, 14. And I'm going to pick my starting point, 0, 0. Okay, so I need to find the slope between those 2 points. Okay, I've got two coordinate points. I want to find the slope between those 2 points. Okay, to do that, I'm going to take y2 minus y1. So 14 minus 0 over 7 minus 0. Okay, right? This is the same equation as y2 minus y1. Over x2 minus x1. Okay, that's how you find the slope, or in this case, the velocity. So that means we're at 14 over 7, which reduces to be 2 meters per, not meters per second. What's our units here?
Kilometers.
Kilometers per minute. And what are the things I'm missing on my graph? I'm missing a title. And I'm missing my labels. Okay, you would put displacement, but I'm just going to go ahead and put the unit there that goes with it. Okay, so my answer should have been 2 kilometers per minute. We're going to start drawing a graph where we've got to determine the scale and where we've got more than one data set to put on our chart. Okay, so if I've got more than one data set that needs to be represented on my chart, what are some options for me as to how I could represent those different data sets? What are options about how I could show that this line means object A and this line means object B? Different colors would be a good option, right? For me, I have the option to do lots of different colors right up here. If you don't have different color options, what else could you do? You could do shapes, right? We could say object A is going to be a dot. Object B is going to be an open circle, and object C is going to be a triangle, right? You could do something like that. That might be the best option for you since you're mostly using just a pencil. That would be an option. If you only had 2 data sets, you could do a solid line and a dotted line, right? There's different options how you could do that. But since I have the choice to do different colors, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say our object A will be in green. For me, my object B will be in red. And my object C will be in blue. Okay, let's read up here. This graph that we're looking at says that we've got a distance in centimeters covered by each second and objects A, B, and C. Okay, so let's go ahead and make our labels and our title. I'm going to label the y-axis as displacement. And what will my units be? Centimeters. Very good. Centimeters. And then I'm going to label the bottom or the x as time. And what should my units be here? What should the unit be? Seconds, right? Because here my time in my data chart is given in seconds. Okay, so now I've got to figure out what's an appropriate scale for my chart, right? Because when we build our graph, we want to use up as much of the graph as we can. Okay, so I've got to figure out what the scale could be. So take a couple minutes here and try to figure out what your scale should be. Should it be 10, 20, 30, or should it be 20, 40, 60, or should it be 20, 25, 30, 35? Should it be 30, 60, 90? Take some time and figure out what you think your scale should be, because we need our distances to go anywhere from 20 all the way up to 180. Agreed? All right, we need it to go from 20 to 180. We want to try to use as much of the graph as we can. Let's make sure that our starting point, however, is 0, 0. Okay, we're going to start at the origin there. So don't start it at 20, just start it at the origin where we draw the graph at least. Remember, yours doesn't have to be the same as mine. I'm just spreading them out as best as I can. Okay, did a lot of you choose to just go by 20s on each line? Yep, that works fine too. On the bottom, I am going to spread out my time a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just so I could use a little bit more space on my chart there. I think I could spread it out. I'd be close to being able to spread it out even more, but I'm going to leave it right there. Okay, so that's how I'm going to make my graph. Yours doesn't have to be scaled exactly the same way. That's okay. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and draw my coordinate points now. So go ahead and graph and plot your points, and then we'll look at analyzing those motion a little bit. So you've got 3 different data sets to graph. Oops.